Hello everybody and welcome back to the Ravenflight channel. If you like today's video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this, and if you have any feedback or anything you want to see from the channel, leave a comment below. On that note, I'm just going to dive right into today's video. It's on the wrap-up of the first group of ESL Pro League Group A. I'm going to talk about, just first of all, who went through, and then also just each team, quickly go over what I thought of them, specifically as it relates to the storylines that I had mapped out for some of the teams at the beginning of the group. Now, to start off, I'm just going to go over the placements of the group real quick, and then I'll talk a bit about the teams. First place was Cloud9, second place was Outsiders. Those were the two finalists in the upper bracket. The third place team, the winner of the lower bracket final, was G2, and then Fnatic won the last chance tournament to make it through to the playoffs as well, so they were fourth place. Starting off with IHC, I was a little wrong. Just a little, just a tiny bit wrong. I was kind of predicting them to be that one, not dark horse team, because I ultimately didn't think they were going to do anything in playoffs, even if they had qualified. But that one team in groups that surprises people and goes through when nobody really thought they would, and they were not that. That team's probably going to be in one of these later groups, if I'm being honest. But is what it is. They still looked okay. They didn't look awful. It wasn't like they just got steamrolled. They pushed Fnatic a lot. They beat them on Overpass, which is a map that Fnatic look really, really good on right now. And ultimately with IHC, I just think they need a little more time to develop. It's likely that they're just going to follow the path of most other, top teams from smaller leagues. If we think about Greyhound, if we think about Renegades, like the post JKS Azure Renegades. That Renegades was actually a top tier team. They were incredible. But I'm talking about, well, the Renegades that turned into Greyhound, I suppose. Those teams like that never really end up doing much, and I hope that isn't the case with IHC, because more competition is always welcome. But it's likely that that's going to happen. Now, a team that I was very much not wrong about, and I knew for a fact I wasn't going to be wrong about, was Evil Geniuses. This team is awful. At least their performances are. I've seen some players talking about EG, and they're saying that, this team isn't as bad as everybody makes it out to be, and they make a really good point here, but their confidence is so shot that it doesn't matter how good the team actually is or how good the players are or what their potential is. They don't have any confidence, and you can tell with how they play. It's honestly kind of embarrassing how EG are playing right now. It's pitiful. There isn't really much more I can say about them. I would go into detail about some stuff, and I might actually make a video on why this EG team is so bad, and actually go in and talk about some of the stats and some of their performances. But right now, I really can't say anything. There's no comment needed. When they lost to IHC, Annihilation even went out in the interview and said, guys, it's EG. The win doesn't really matter. If that's your reputation as an org and as a team, there need to be changes, and I talked about that in my last video, which you guys should go watch. If you haven't watched it, I'll leave a little clip to it. It's honestly embarrassing. Like I said, it's just not the position you want to be in as a team, as an org, and I don't know what they're going to do to dig themselves out of this hole, but they have to somehow. Now on to the next team, MIBR. I don't really have much to say about MIBR. They're above most of Tier 2, but are still well below the level of teams like Eternal Fire and Fnatic, which are like the Tier 1.5 teams, where we see them compete with Tier 1 teams, but ultimately never really win much unless it's in a Tier 2 tournament. But there's still that void underneath Furia for the second best team in Brazil, and MIBR are definitely a team that have potential to take that spot, but they, right as it is, they need time. They need to develop, they need to work on it, and we'll see what they do. Next up is the aforementioned Eternal Fire. They pushed, as most people who played Nuke against G2 did, they pushed G2 really, really hard, and I'm going to talk about G2 in a moment. Their nuke looks pretty freaking good. Their Anubis is really, really strong. But the problem with those two maps specifically, and those are the only two maps I saw them play, I think they might have played. They played Overpass against Fnatic, and they played Overpass against Fnatic, and it was the same kind of thing for me. Their T sides feel way too dependent on set pieces and executes, which is just never really a formula to win against top teams. You're not gonna succeed doing that, because once you get used to playing against that as a CT, a few well-placed aggressive moves, some well-timed lurks and flanks, that's it. You're not gonna win. And that's what we saw happen for the most part, is they would start off really strong because most tier 1 teams aren't used to teams playing that execute heavy. But as soon as they got used to it, they figured it out and it clicked, and Eternal Fire just kind of got swamped. But they lost twice to Fnatic. I think this team has a lot of potential. I think it really does. But it's kind of dependent on whether or not they can develop a solid default instead of just relying on executes, and if Xantares and Immor can keep up the form that they're in. Now to talk about Fnatic, the team that beat Eternal Fire twice. They did it. They were the team that snapped the nuke streak. We were waiting to see who it would be, and it was them. It was really strong performances from each member of the team on that map, but especially just at this tournament overall. Vasher, Crims, Nikados, and Roy, and Mezzi especially, all really stepped up. They were all performing really well, and it led to a lot of really great CT sides and some really good T sides as well, especially on Overpass. Their T side is the best looking Overpass T side I've seen in a minute. They've got two really strong maps. Nuke, obviously, they beat G2 on it, they beat Eternal Fire on it, and I think they might have beat another team on it, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And their Overpass is also really strong. Like I said, they're the only team that I see winning T-side Overpass halves, and they do it convincingly. It's not like a struggle or a grind. It's not like we're watching, old Na'Vi T-sides on Overpass where they're going to grind until like there's 15 seconds left and then execute onto a site, usually A. But they are really, really good. They play fast. They play aggressive. Mezzi is incredible on this map. Roy has so much space to work with. And Nikados has really stepped it up at this event. The only question I have about Fnatic is their Inferno, which is a map they're going to need to be able to play at a high level if they're going to play against high-level opposition. And they aren't at that level. They lost against Eternal Fire, and they lost against a few other teams on Inferno. They win 37% of their pistol rounds on Inferno, which is really freaking low, and that's not a recipe for winning maps, because you just spend 2 seconds thinking about it. You lose both pistol rounds, you're likely losing 6 rounds just from there, 3 rounds from each pistol round. If you're starting off a map just saying, okay, we're probably just going to lose 6 rounds by default, you're putting yourself up against the wall, and that's a lot of work to do. And I know it's just on one of their maps, and on most other maps they're pretty good, but it's an important map in the pool, and it's one they're going to need to play a lot and play well if they really want to succeed at the top level. And I mean, on that note as well, their CT and T win percentages are both under 50%, which just kind of speaks to the lack of strength that they have on the map. They don't have a strong CT side to lean on. They don't have a good T side to lean on, especially with how T-sided Inferno has become recently. But like I said, if they want to succeed, it's a map they're going to need to get better at, and that's the only one I really have questions about. Next, I've been teasing it a little bit. It's G2, and now I've seen a lot of people on Reddit and on HLTV forums, which, if you're taking those with any degree of seriousness, stop. Rethink what you're doing. I've seen people on those forums talking about how, oh, the G2 era is over. It's all done. Ha ha ha. God, no. They lost one map of Nuke in a game that they won, and they lost a match to Cloud9 when Shiro and Exile went supernova. And the other thing is, G2 have been playing non-stop Counter-Strike for like 2 months. They haven't been able to stop, rest, and actually plan new stuff. They've been going boot camp, tournament, boot camp to tournament, boot camp to tournament. They've barely had time to go and actually go and sit down and come up with new strats. And that's, if you guys haven't watch it and you have 3.5 hours spare time, Sponge does a podcast called Talking Counter. They had Nico on today, and he kind of echoed that sentiment that they just have not had any time to sit down in the lab and come up with new stuff. So that has made it really easy for teams to anti-strat them because they don't have the time or the ability to come up with new stuff. But now they have 3 weeks to do it. So I expect them to come back even stronger after this. They're going to have their mental coach back, and I really expect G2 to keep, burning through opposition once they have the time to actually sit down and come up with new strats and new plays. Next up is Outsiders. They look a hell of a lot stronger than their performances at Kato, I'll tell you that much. They've been playing really, really well. Now, I still have doubts about whether or not the way that James likes to call teams, the way that James likes to play the game, is actually a winning formula consistently. I suppose we'll see, but I really don't believe so. Fame and Flit, though, look really freaking good. They're back up near the level, at least, that they were at Rio, which I honestly believe that a big part of why they won Rio is because they just let Fame and Flit play as aggressively as they wanted to, and they were both really, really good. And now they're not quite at that level, but they're getting back up there. And so if James allows them to play with that kind of freedom, and if Chiron can keep improving like he is, they could start winning. But if James stays stuck to this rigid kind of system, I don't see that as a winning formula. I do think, though, that they could have beat Cloud9 in the upper final and gotten first place in this group, but that one was a coin toss. It was a 50-50. Now to the last team in the group, it is Cloud9. I have so many doubts about this team just by itself. I feel like this team shouldn't have performed as well as they did. It's absolutely a testament to how good Shiro and Axile are as individuals and as a duo. They are the complete definition of a hard carry right now. They're the best definition we have, at least, in the scene right now. Without Shiro and Axile performing like top 5 players, which they are, this team would be in the doldrums. If they had anybody else, or if Shiro and Axile weren't consistently putting up like 1.5 and 1.6 rated games and events, they wouldn't be winning anything. They'd be stuck. Like they're pretty strong on most maps. They have a really, really good Vertigo. They have got a great Mirage and Inferno, and their Ancient's pretty strong as well. But it kind of loops back. The way I see it is just like it's dependent on Shiro and Axile having really, really good games, and it helps that Shiro and Axile are good on most maps, especially on Vertigo. That like the only reason I would say that Cloud9 are in contention for the best Vertigo team in the world is because of how freaking good Shiro is by himself on that. The game he had against G2 was absolutely ridiculous. Other than that, I really have a lot of doubts about this team and whether or not they're actually going to make an impact in the playoffs, what they're actually capable of doing. I think it will take a step up in the calling to really convince me, and not just a dependency on Shiro and Axile multi-fragging, but it will be answered in 3 weeks, I guess. Now, like I said, if you guys enjoyed this video, if you want to see more content, please support the channel, leave a like, subscribe, comments, anything to get me out in the algorithm. And I hope you guys are enjoying watching Pro League as much as I am, because it's been a blast so far, and I can't wait for more. The next video should be out tomorrow about the Pro League Group B. I wanted to have this video out sooner, but this weekend was busy and I really just wasn't able to. So this video will be going out today, as in Tuesday, and then the next one should be out Wednesday morning, my time at least. So that video should be out, but in the future, I'm hoping to get it more consistent. It was just this weekend was really rough. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye.